Hey everyone, this is Robert coming at you with part 2 in a series made to get you started in Pro Tools. Today we're going to break down tracks. We're going to break down track types and the most efficient way to set up your session. Now here we have our session going. In order to create a track, there are really only two ways to do it. Now the first way is by going to track, hitting new, and that will pull up this screen right here, this window. And here are the parameters that come with a new track window. The amount of tracks right here next to create, the track type, whether it be mono or stereo, and all of these options as well. So these are the track types. We have a routing folder, basic folder. These are new to Pro Tools. We'll break those down in a later video. We have audio track, aux input, master fader, VCA master, MIDI track, and instrument track. For today, we're going to use audio, aux, master, MIDI, and instrument. We also decide what we're going to record in. Are we going to record in samples or in ticks? So that'll also be something we go through later. And we get to name the track. This is something relatively new to Pro Tools as well, being able to name your track in this new tracks dialog window. Now, the second way to do all this is using key commands. So I'm going to do an entire session setup using only key commands. And you'll see those commands pop up on the screen, and these will be super useful, super good for getting you working in your session in the most efficient way possible. So I'm going to start off by creating a new track by hitting Shift Command N. Now I can switch between a mono and stereo track by hitting Command and going right or left on the arrows. Hitting Command down and up arrow allows us to go through the different track types. So we're going to go audio track, and hitting Shift Command down arrow allows us to add or delete rows. So the way to do that without a key command would be to hit plus, minus, and so on. So let's break down our session. Now for this, I want to create 2 mono audio tracks. So I went command and left arrow to switch that to mono. I'm going to hit Shift Command down to create a new row, because now we're also going to make 3 instrument tracks. So I use the up and down arrow to adjust the number of tracks. Then I hit Command and now hit down arrow until I arrive at the instrument tracks. Now I want these instrument tracks to be stereo. So I hit Command and left arrow. And that does that. So we're going to now go and add another row, and we're going to create 1 stereo aux track. Shift Command down arrow again, and 1 stereo master fader. Before I exit the screen, I'm going to demonstrate what naming your track does when you have more than 1 track in this section. These I'm going to designate to being vocals, so I'm just going to put Vox, at least for now, just for demonstration purposes. This one, let's just say synth. This will be a reverb, and this will be a master track. So when I hit create, it now pops up. Now notice what it does here. Vox 1, Vox 2, Synth 1, Synth 2, Synth 3, reverb, and master. That is what you get when you name a track and you're asking in the same row for that track to have multiples. So that's what happens when you have 2 audio tracks that you want to name Vox. Now, in actuality, one of these audio tracks is actually going to be called bass. I'm going to record a bass. A way to get around that, going back into our track window, would be, hey, I know this is going to be called Vox. I know I have more audio tracks, but I'm going to have to make a new row. Instead of adding 5 or 2 or 20 audio tracks, it's more efficient for me to make a new row, name it however I need to, and move on from there. Overall, I tend to not name my tracks that much in session. Maybe it's just habit from not having that option, but instead I name them up here. So double clicking and naming your tracks here. So that's going to be Vox. Command arrow to go to the next track down. That's going to be bass. Now this synth, I actually want it to be drums. I'm going to make a little drum loop. And this synth right here will be synth 1. And this synth will be lead. Now before I move on, I'm going to add a MIDI track. Now MIDI tracks, if you notice, cannot be made mono or stereo. MIDI is just information. And boom, we have our session set up. That's going to do it for this video. In the next one, we'll get into recording and routing MIDI using instrument tracks and Pro Tools. Basically the basics of working a session. Catch you guys on the next one. Goodbye.